Welcome to Forum 360. Thank you for joining us for a global outlook with a local view. I'm Leslie Unger, your host today. We all remember Shakespeare's Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art there, Romeo. Little do most of us know that for the last 16 years, our Akron Romeo has been in more countries than most of us can name. Germany, Israel, Croatia, Ukraine, Russia, Philippines, and Italy, to name a few. After playing for St. V in the University of Akron, he went to Europe to fulfill his passion to make basketball a career. Romeo played for basketball teams whose names I can't even pronounce. I think of him like the scout that the Army sent out ahead to get information. Romeo can tell us about living in other countries, how Americans are perceived around the world, perhaps what it's like being homesick, and living on a kibbutz in Israel. It is an honor to welcome to Forum 360 and St. V's now assistant basketball coach, Romeo Travis. So I welcome you.
Well, thank you. That was a great introduction.
Thank you. I never in my life thought I'd be saying, Romeo, 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 where are you? But your family must have been saying that a lot.
No, my family doesn't. Most people that know me well, nobody calls me Romeo.
What did I call you?
Rome. Everybody.
Rome.
Yeah. So if I hear Romeo, something's wrong.
So do I have permission to call you Rome?
Yeah, we're here. We're interviewing. You know, let's take off the when I hear Romeo, I know two things. One, if I'm in trouble, or two, that person doesn't really know me.
All right.
Yeah, so everybody just calls me Rome.
Rome.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. It appears from the outside that the team, St. V, has stayed close for over 20 years. It seems to me that that's kind of hard to do. You guys have gone in different directions. You are different professions, different economic levels. Like, how did you stay close?
You make time. You gotta, a lot of friendships falter when you don't make time. We don't take it personal when somebody doesn't have time. So we try to get together at least once a year. Actually, we're going to have dinner tonight. At least 3 or 4 of us. And so if somebody can't be there, we're not going to postpone a dinner because one person can't be there. So we're still keeping our connections by just, staying connected and actually trying. Just like with any relationship, it takes a little effort.
Now, can you imagine when you think back, and we're going to get into when you first went, to Europe, what it would have been like if you didn't have the ability to email and text?
Yes. I came in 2007, and my older teammates, they were telling me what it was like before the technology boom, with sending letters. He said it would take him a month to send a letter. He said he would have a $1,000 phone bill every month just calling back to the States from being lonely. So he told me about all these things, and I was like, ugh. I'm glad that I didn't have to experience it as much. But when I first went over there, I had to buy a camera for my computer so I can Skype and video chat. That was before it became standard in all the computers. So
Sure.
It just kind of how old I am.
Or how new the technology is.
Yes.
Right? Now, take us back to Germany. Your first time away from home.
No,
right?
I went to Spain first.
Spain was first.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go to Spain. Your first time away from home. What was that like to kind of like just be beamed from Akron, Ohio to a foreign country?
My mother had took me and my siblings to Canada before, so I had been out of the country before. I had played on the all-star team in college, and I went to Chile in South America, and I went to Italy before to play basketball. So it wasn't my first time out of the country, but it was my first time living out of the country. So that when you're there visiting with an all-star team, they take care of everything, the food, so all that's taken care of. But when you live in the country, you have to take care of your own food, your gas, driving back and forth to practice, all these things.
Okay, so let's look at that. Did they give you a place to live?
Yes.
They give you a place to live?
Yeah, that's standard. A place to live, a car, a furnished apartment. And so pretty much all you have to take care of is your food, some places take care of Wi-Fi and your cell phone, kind of like, you know, so but certain teams are better at preparing you. You know, I was in Germany, they dropped me off, gave me a car. It was a stick shift car. I've never driven a stick before. Here's your car, figure it out. Like, where's the grocery store? Hey, figure it out.
That's what I was going to ask you. How hard was it just to eat?
It's difficult. You know, when you don't speak the language, I have certain diet restrictions that I put on myself, so I don't eat everything. So now that's even more difficult because I'm trying to find the right thing that I like to eat. And certain places, they're not as warm as other places.
So can you give us an example first of a place that was warm, that was helpful?
A place that was warm and helpful was probably when I was in Israel. They're pretty warm and helpful. They speak English there. Most people speak English, and so you can ask a question. But I don't eat pork, so it's not a lot of just pork readily available anyway. So that was easier for me. But when I go to France, and I stop, pardon.
They're never helpful.
Zero.
Right?
They don't want
Agreed.
to talk to you at all. They have zero interest in helping. They would ignore me, walk right past me. Like, I'm a big guy with a deep voice.
Hard to ignore.
I know you hurt me, but you have to just wait until you find that person that really wants to help you, and you, as long as you're polite and they'll help you.
Now, what about teammates? We think of teammates as being this cohesive group. But, you just get beamed there and, you haven't practiced together, grown up together, sweated together. So are teammates much of a source of support?
Yes, it depends on where you are and the type of people you have around you. When I was, in France, I had a really, really great teammate. I actually just messaged him like 4 days ago. And I told him, now that I'm done playing, you were probably one of my best teammates I've ever had as far as just being a resource. Go here, do that, eat here. He would organize the barbers. He would organize us getting our haircut, team dinners, all these things. And it was just like, it was good to have a great teammate.
Now, I'm curious, did that translate into you being more of a winning team?
No, we won the championship that year.
Oh, so do you think that there is a connection
absolutely.
there between the team dinners and that cohesiveness?
Absolutely. We would all get our haircuts on Friday. We would come to my apartment. We would all play Uno every Friday. Our games are on Saturday, so Friday night we would all come together, hang out at my house, and so it was a good time just to be together and spend some moments together. And you get to know people outside of basketball. Just because a lot of people ask, like, yeah, you guys were teammates, but yeah, we're not friends. Like, how many people do you work with? And you work with them, you work well together, but when our time is over, it's over. You go your way, I go mine. I see you tomorrow when it's time to work, come back to work. And so they think basketball is different for some reason.
Yeah,
it's not.
We do.
We actually probably talk less than normal co-workers because when we're more active and when we're talking about jobs, our work. Hey, you're supposed to do this, do that. It's rare that you find a lot of people like, as Americans, we get close overseas because there's not a lot of Americans. So naturally you gravitate towards each other because we don't have a lot of friends here. But for the local guys, they tend to stick to themselves and Americans to themselves. And then there's even sub-cliques of the local players and the American players because you get closer to certain guys.
Sure.
You share certain common interests with other guys. So you don't really know. I sat and talked to my teammate. Was like, hey, you got any brothers and sisters? This is like 4 or 5 months in. And then they're like, you guys don't talk about this? Like, no. Like, I go to work, I go home. Like, just like any other job.
But I had a birthday party for Moshe that you met a couple weeks ago, and I did 20 questions about Moshe, of his friends, and it was amazing how few they could answer. Although one of them had been friends for 28 years and couldn't answer how many siblings he had.
He's a man, though, right? Men, we have different conversations. It's just like, I don't care how many brothers and sisters you have. It's not not in a negative way.
Yeah.
But like, if you got brothers and sisters, okay, that's cool. Oh, you don't have any brothers and sisters, like, okay, like that's not a part of our conversation.
Yeah.
We talk about different things about the world, politics, maybe finances, or did you watch XYZ game? Like those are the things that we speak about. Women care more about the personal life. Guys, we really don't. That's not really our thing, And my wife was like, how don't you know that? Like, I don't really care to know. You know, it's not personal, like in a negative way, but it's just, I just don't care to know. You know,
Now,
like,
many talented high school or even college players think that they can play in the NBA. Probably even many elementary school kids playing on courts everywhere, right? Some of them are right, but what don't they know about that level of play?
the consistency and hard work that you have to put in to reach that level. It's not for the faint of heart. You know, I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot on my journey, and I never made it to the NBA. And so for other guys, you know, it's going to take more than they expect. Whatever they're doing is not enough. So
Now, knowing that now, if you think back to your 12-year-old self or your 14-year-old self or your 16-year-old self, what do you know now about this journey that could have helped you then?
Everything that I wanted to do would be there after I'd done everything I needed to do. So I would go to a party. I would go hang out with girls. I would go play the video games instead of being in the gym, doing my schoolwork. You know, I was never a bad student, but I kind of put that to the back burner, you know, and if I would have known what I know now and just a little bit of hard work would have taken me so much further. So it was, but like God had given me so many natural abilities, I relied on those. And if I would have mixed more, like I worked hard, like I don't want to say, but if I'd have worked harder and mixed with those God-given abilities, not that my life wasn't great, it could have been better, even better, you know, and that's just one of the.
Now, you play 16 years?
14, I
14?
played 16 years, 14 seasons.
Okay,
So,
okay.
So with the COVID year, I didn't play at all.
Got it. So 16 years, 14 seasons. I listened to an interview where a guy was tried for 16 years to make it as an opera singer. And he said he thought he was always one good coach away, that if he just got the right coach, then he'd be able to make it as an opera singer. And he ended up eventually just being a songwriter, and he's written some great songs, but he finally realized that he wasn't going to make it as an opera singer. He wasn't just one coach away. You know, you spent 16 years, 14 seasons. How much of it is luck, being in the right place, or a team needing you at the right time, or a coach seeing you differently? Like, where does luck play in and where does talent?
That's a good question. But first and foremost, it was not luck. I wouldn't say. I would say.
I mean, luck that like a
No,
team in the U.S. might have needed someone like you. Somebody got hurt and they needed someone like you.
In the U.S., I never played in the NBA.
Right.
So,
But could that have been any luck that somebody?
I could have played in the NBA, but my time came, and I was not prepared.
And what does that mean?
So I had an opportunity to play in a camp called Portsmouth Camp for all the top 50 seniors in all colleges all over the United States, the top 50 in the whole, United States. I played in the camp. But after my senior year, when we lost at the buzzer, I began partying, drinking every night. I stopped training. And my friend, Maverick called me and said, you're going to play in 2 days at Portsmouth, like, pack your bags. And I'm like, I haven't been training, I've been just partying. So I tried to run to the gym and get 2 days worth of work in and knock the rust off, but that I wasn't ready. I didn't respect what it took. And so then, I got a contract to go play overseas, but 2 years later, I had an opportunity to play for the Cleveland Cavs Summer League team in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. And for the first 2 games, I didn't play at all. And so after the second game, I did what I normally do. I started partying, drinking, hanging out. The very next day, I played the game. I played a lot of game, and I didn't play well. I had a chance, and I wasn't prepared.
See, I have a banner hanging in my office that says opportunities have a shelf life. I believe opportunities don't always come again. Other people believe there'll always be another opportunity, but then there's those of us that believe opportunities don't always come again. But I appreciate you being that open to share that. I think is going to be helpful for people to hear that.
It's a part of my journey, and people need to know that you're not going to get multiple chances. And when your chance comes, you have to be
ready.
You have to be prepared.
Today we are talking to Romeo Travis, Rome, if you know him, St. V and University of Akron basketball player, and a product of Europe, tour of Europe, a 14-season tour of Europe in his basketball career. Did it remain a passion with you, or did it just become a non-traditional way to make a living?
People always ask me, did I have a plan? Like, how'd you plan this out? I never had a plan in my life. I just lived and worked hard, and just, and things kind of just took me on a journey. When I started playing basketball, I never knew I would play basketball for a state championship team. I never knew I would get a full scholarship, athletic scholarship to play basketball. I never knew I would get a contract offer. I never knew the amount of money I would turn down. Like, I don't play for that. And so I never knew that, so it was.
That's funny, because I laugh because any consultant, our coach has to learn to be able to look in the mirror and say, yes, I am worth that. And it can be hard.
Yeah, it's
right?
very difficult because you feel regret. There's a show called Survivor's Remorse. You feel bad that you're the one that made it. Mm-hmm. You're the one that's a success story. You're the one out of your, I have 28, 26 first cousins, and I'm the one that made it. And so, you feel regret. You feel kind of bad about it, and you have to think about it as, they made their choice, I made mine, and I have to, enjoy the fruits of my labor. Yes. Because it really was labor.
Yes, yes. Let me ask you some kind of shorter, fun questions. Your favorite country to actually play in?
Well, I would say the Philippines was my favorite.
Why?
Because they love basketball. Philippines and Croatia.
Really?
Yeah, because they absolutely love basketball.
I thought Israel loved basketball.
They love it.
But not as much.
Not as much. The Philippines, there is only 12 teams. They're all in a 10 million population city, and you're the only American on that team.
Wow.
So it's a pressure that a lot of people can't handle, but it's a pressure that I welcomed. And I'm glad that I was able to get it later in life, later in my career, so I can handle it differently. Mm-hmm. I can handle it better. And so I love the Philippines. I love Croatia because their passion for basketball was unmatched.
That is so interesting.
And only in one small corner of Croatia called Zadar. They call it the basketball capital of Europe. And it's a very small city, but their love for basketball, I've never seen a city that loves basketball more than Zadar.
That is so interesting.
They love it.
Several years ago, I went to a wedding in Paris, and when they seated us, they gave us a name, and I didn't know the name, and I thought, you're giving us the wrong table, because I don't know anyone by this name. And they sat us by names of professional NBA players in America.
Yeah,
and here I am in Paris. So, I think sometimes we don't realize how much
global it is.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Very global.
Least favorite city to play in?
I would have to say Ukraine.
Really?
Yeah, I was in Ukraine during the first invasion of Ukraine. And the city I lived in was a very, very small factory town. Our team was sponsored by the factory, and so we stayed in the factory town. It's probably a population of 5,000 people, 2 grocery stores, 1 stoplight, very dreary place, very dirty. But the Ukraine people, not the city, not the people, so I want to clarify that. The people were good, but the city itself was small, and it was very unappealing.
Now, you had a lot of different coaches.
Yes.
What did you learn from a coach that you want to emulate now that you're an assistant coach at the famous St. Vincent St. Mary?
I want to learn how to communicate where my players can hear me. Saying things doesn't always mean somebody can hear and digest what you're saying. So I had some very good coaches in my lifetime, and I really want to say things and my players can hear me, and really take in that information and digest it, and then be able to actually do it.
Do it, implement it.
Yes.
I have a saying in my coaching room: it's not enough to merely know; one must know and do.
Yes.
Right. Is there something that you swore that you would never do if you were a coach?
I would never demean a player by their personality. So I would never, call a player out of his name. I would never disrespect him. we're all people. You may have done something that I don't like, but that's not you as a person. So I would never demean a player or bring them down because I know what it feels like. And so I would never, ever demean a player.
Michael Jordan said that the game of basketball was played between the ears. Now, the elite level, I don't care whether you're a professional athlete in Europe or here, it's still a very elite level of play. Can you give us a percentage of how much is mental toughness, how much is physical gifts, how much is work?
I would say 40% mental,
Okay.
35% work, and probably 25% physical abilities, because no matter how smart you are or how hard you work, you got to have some physical abilities. But if you can't think the game at a high level, no matter how hard you work and how good your abilities is, it's always going to be somebody that's going to outsmart you. And so you have to mix those things in together. That's what I call the zone personally, when your physical abilities meet your mental abilities and you're able to put those both into use at the same time.
I was working with a young lady who was applying to vet school, and it's actually harder to get into vet school than medical school because there are so few vet schools.
Yeah.
And so they tell you that less than 10% of getting into vet school is your grades, because everybody has good grades. Like every professional athletes all have skills,
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah.
So it's not just your skills.
No, it's not. If it was just my skills, I would have never got a college scholarship. If it was just my brain, I would have never been able to play pro. You had to put all of it together. You have to be able to be smart, play hard, and have God-given ability to really, to compete at a high level.
Keith Dambrot is one of my favorite people in the world. What is something, can you remember, do you still use something that you learned when you were playing for Keith?
The only two things you can control: your attitude and your effort. You're going to make shots, you're going to miss shots, but if you keep your attitude and your effort at your ultimate, there's nothing you can't do. We can miss shots, we can miss assignments on defense, but it's your attitude and effort are literally the only two things you can control.
If I asked your kids, what does your father do? How would they answer that?
They would say everything and nothing at the same time. No. They would say that I coach. My kids are very proud of me. They love to see me coaching, and they love to see my passion that I pour into coaching. So they're so proud of me.
Oh, that's so nice to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you for 2 or 3 word answers in the remaining time that we have. I briefly met your wife, a Copley High School graduate.
Yes, ma'am.
Who is beautiful and charming. When did you meet her along the journey, and how hard was it to court someone across time zones? In 2 or 3 words.
We met in 2010.
So you were in Europe.
Yeah, I was in Europe. I met her in the summer. We dated in the summer. I left. We stayed in constant contact via text message. And then I came back in the summer and we dated again. But after that summer, I began to fly her over so she can visit and we can spend more time together. And it was difficult, but that's how you court somebody when you live in a different country.
Okay. What would surprise someone who never left Northeast Ohio about Northeast Ohio?
That people are not really that nice here.
Here?
Yeah.
We're not that nice here?
No.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
People are much nicer other places.
Wow.
You would be surprised by that, but it's actually
Yes.
true.
Okay. A surprise about living on a kibbutz in Israel.
That is peaceful. It's so peaceful and serene that is, you think you would be bored, but it's very peaceful. I enjoy the quiet.
Is there a surprise in that you were homesick or that you weren't homesick?
That I was. I learned a trick that I had to teach myself. That wherever I am, that's where I'm at. Wherever you are, I forgot the saying, it was wherever you're at, so you are, or something like that. I'm not homesick. I wish I could be there, but I'm not.
Okay. One surprise, something that would surprise us about being a professional athlete.
People not that smart. Athlete. Well, that's not a surprise, but I'll say one surprise that people basketball and athletes in general are more caring than people would actually know. It's just difficult to be caring because so many people want something from you. But more athletes care than not care.
Something that would surprise us about living in a different country.
It's not that hard.
Okay.
It's doable.
Something that would surprise us about foreign food.
It's actually really good.
Do you have a favorite?
Yes, I have. From every country I've been to have good
Give
food.
me 3.
Okay. Falafel.
From Israel?
Shawarma. Beef tapas with the rice from Philippines with the egg over easy. That's my favorite breakfast from overseas.
Okay. Whenever I travel and someone asks me where I'm from, I always answer Akron, Ohio, home of Purell and LeBron. Now I will add home of Romeo Travis. I'll just keep it Rome between us. Akron's ambassador to the world. Romeo has seen and lived in more places than most of us can name and played for more teams than most of us could count. I'm coming home probably refers more to Romeo than to the other basketball player that said it. Thank you for joining us on Forum 360 today.
Forum 360 is brought to you by John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, the Akron Community Foundation, Hudson Community Television, the Rubber City Radio Group, Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron, Blue Green, Electric Impulse Communications, and Forum 360 supporters.